and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. We are the Dadley Boyz of WhatCulture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamflett and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review AEW Dynamite, but also AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round-of-the-week complete with a quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, though, joined by Hamflett and Sidgwick to review last night's Dynamite and all the fallouts from Double or Nothing.
I thought there were things on the show that were actively bad.
Okay.
Things on this show that were mediocre. One thing on the show that was incredible. Dynamite.
Hard same. Like, some of the best booking of the year happened at the end of the show, by far. And, like, a lot of that. I wanted to feel energized more than I got, ultimately, over 2 hours. Fallout is the word. It's become a joke at this point, but it didn't really feel like there was much, considering the stuff that was eventful at Double or Nothing. So there wasn't like much to grab onto in that regard. But they have booked something on this show that's the smartest thing they'll probably book all year, realistically. Like, not to overstate it or sort of like underperform how excited I am about it, because when we get to it, I think it's as good as a thing that they can do.
Indeed. Let's get to it.
Yeah, there's a bit, remind me when we get to the Christopher Daniels stuff, because we sort of touched on that on the preview yesterday, and I'm intrigued to know your thoughts, particularly off the back of the result of Anik in the arena and with this sort of power struggle across AEW. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because the show opened with, I hope this doesn't immediately get us demonetized on YouTube, Mercedes
Moné. Moné.
Oh, in a taxi as well. But just sort of going like... just really happy to be there. Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it, at the moment?
It was her TBS title celebration, of course. She comes out and tells the crowd to say hello to the CEO and TBS champion. Asks if she was worth the wait, and she definitely was. She changed everything at Double or Nothing, she says. And they can celebrate the in-ring return of the greatest of all time, Mia, or herself. She said her and Willow Nightingale tore the house down, but Willow's way too nice. She could have told her that Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway would screw her over. But when Nightingale comes back better than ever, she hopes that she kicks their asses. But becoming the face of TBS has put a huge target on her back. And as she goes to continue and sort of turn her focus to Forbidden Door, she's interrupted by Sky Blue on the big screen, who says she's got a surprise for her celebration. And we cut to footage of the backstage attack, the lights off, lights on, groaning. And it is revealed that that was Sky Blue who was behind it.
In your multiple rewatches of said segment, did you identify the assailant?
Well, I was thinking this is a bit of blue, and then I thought, Sky Blue, of course. She says that was some of her best work. She's only getting started, and then she attacks Moné from behind, hits a TKO, and holds up the TBS title. And subsequent to this, a little bit later on in the show, Tony Schiavone confirms that Tony Khan's made it official, and Moné defended the TBS title against Sky Blue a little bit later on.
Can I just shock you?
Go on.
I quite like impromptu matches this time. Generally hate them. This is a long discussed bugbear of mine in pro wrestling, right? I didn't hate this at all, and in fact, I thought it was a good idea. The idea, and it's been completely and utterly cannibalized by WWE doing it for so long. The idea of an impromptu match, right, is it to feel like a welcome surprise. Like, class! I didn't think I was going to get this, which is hard to accomplish when every other episode of Raw about 3 or 4 years ago, and like 10 years and 15 years before that, it was like, oh, gee, you're getting this in the main event. It's like, it's literally no longer a surprise. It's the format.
Yeah.
It's the norm. An impromptu match fundamentally is meant to make the audience at home go, we're getting this. It's meant to be this like cool thing that takes you aback. And genuinely, for the first time in years and years, I had that feeling of, oh God, Mercedes Moné can wrestle on TV now.
Yes.
Amazing, especially because she was so incredible at Double or Nothing. The idea that you're going to get A second Moné match was like, oh, I'm mad into this. You can make the argument that it didn't make much business sense not to announce this ahead of time. I don't really care about that anymore. It's about at some point, it's got to be about my personal view experience. And it was elevated by this genuine surprise factor, the intended thing that an impromptu match is meant to be. On Mercedes Moné's promo, let's face it, not great. Very rarely is.
Yeah.
And she didn't really feel like a star in that very dark and clearly a half, third full Kia Forum. Got any dirty ones for that?
No, leave it with me.
I'll leave it with you. It's very important. The match itself, spoiler alert, not the very best. But this is the one time where I thought that's what an impromptu match is meant to make you feel.
I sort of, I got used to it and sort of just grimly accepted it as part of WWE. But I always thought it was less egregious when it wasn't. Thank God we had no idea what to put in the main event otherwise. If they put it elsewhere on the show, it's almost a lot more allowable on wherever it is because, that was always going to be the Gauntlet, obviously.
Yeah, philosophically, I still think it's a pretty dumb idea.
Yeah.
But, if you do it sparingly, which AEW does, then maybe I should soften my resolve.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I also thought they were going to just drop that attack. Had this sort of sinking feeling it was just going to get abandoned. It wasn't really getting picked up in promos anymore.
There were two things they tied up on this show.
Yeah, I don't think it was
well done.
Originally going to be Sky Blue, because it felt like it was supposed to exist more within the Willow and Chris Statlander orbit, and then as a way, knowing that this Saraya match got postponed to next week's Dynamite, and this, the spot needed filling. This was a nice way to do it, and a cute way just to deal with that thing, especially because is there not enough lore that you can attach to the TBS title that she would have been doing it on Julia Hart's behalf as a sort of revenge attack to get them back in the mix, something. So it even makes sense, even if it was a bit of a last minute addition. So I felt good that that was settled and squared away.
I was going to say she's sort of amalgamated some of Julia Hart's powers, but in reality, that's just turning a light switch on and off, isn't it? Really,
pretty much. Mercedes Moné as a baby face, by the way, cannot continue for very long, in my opinion. I think there are matches to do. It still feels special having her around, and as a result, she's still going to get these responses. But in the flashes where she was up against Willow and she could slot into being the heel, I think it was made clear where the real Moné, the real sort of potential of her run lies. But I get why right now you've kind of got
years left. You've got years left of this.
Still novelty as a face.
That was set up for later on in the show, and then we see the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada arriving in their car, and the scapegoat bus, I suppose as it's called now, pulling up behind them as well, and we get a great video package highlighting everything that went down at Double or Nothing, followed by the world champion Swerve Strickland coming out for the match against Killswitch, this House of the Dragon tie-in thing. Swerve struggles to take the big man down. He gets pushed outside early on, but he eventually comes back with a neck breaker and then keeps Killswitch in a cravat and rolls to the outside and hits a neck breaker from the apron to the floor. It's great. Killswitch comes back, blocks a pump kick from the apron and sends Swerve into the steps for our first break. When we come back, Strickland comes back with an uppercut off the ropes and an impressive brainbuster for a 2 count. But Killswitch avoids big pressure, and a rolling Swerve Strickland is hit with a huge headbutt in midair. He hits the choke slam, but Swerve kicks out, so Killswitch goes and grabs a chair, and Prince Nana rips it away, distracting Killswitch long enough to allow Strickland to hit multiple pump kicks and a Swerve stomp off the apron. When they go back inside, Swerve wants the house call, but Killswitch catches him and hits another choke slam and a standing moonsault, but he misses that big lariat of his. Strickland hits a bounce-back German house call, Swerve stomp. You thought that was it, a 2 count there, or 3 count that everyone bit on, but he kicks out at 2, so Strickland just gets up and hits him with another house call, puts him away, and afterwards, Prince Nana hands Swerve some scissors to cut a lock of hair from Killswitch, getting his own back for ripping out his dreadlocks a couple of weeks back.
I don't know how much of a compliment this is. It's pretty backhanded, right? But that house call kick out, right, was so convincing. This doesn't really, indicate that I was on the edge of my seat, completely glued to this match, because I wasn't. It was a hard-hitting, fairly creative David versus Goliath match that didn't do a great deal to position Swerve as the absolute focal point of the promotion. It was a gentleman's 3 that was less boring than that connotes, right? That house call was so well done as an ear fall that at the 2.9, I was like, right, let's quickly go on Wordle. Quickly go on Wordle now because there's going to be an ad break after this. I can get my Wordle done. And then it was like 5 seconds. I went, what? It's still on. And I thought it was just done.
Yeah.
I thought it was absolute Dunsky Jones. More on that later. Jesus effing Christ. This is fine.
Yeah.
But it was fine.
I loved the finish. Loved it.
It was really good.
I really like you don't get enough of this in wrestling, of 2.999999. You know what would get me that 0.00001? My finisher again. Like I really like that. And like the guy is almost dead. Just do it again. Like, so I like that as a finish. It's Swerve. It's still too much Swerve the utility working man's world champion, which is not for him and probably never will be. But if you're going to do what you're going to do at Forbidden Door, there are a lot of different ways to prove yourself the best. And that match is going to be who's the best. So this is like, again, you're closing the loop with the patriarchy, visually with the hair as well. So it's like Swerve being the guy that is like completely taking care of all of his business and is doing it as the wrestler's wrestler version of himself. It's at least the right time in his current like trajectory to be doing that as well. So like pretty decent booking. If the match was Swerve versus Killswitch on telly. It was absolutely everything it promised and nothing more outside of that 2.99.
Yeah. Good commercial tie-in as well.
Yeah, the corporate synergy, yeah, because he's like a dragon, isn't he?
Last year's was better? Was it Danielson Garcia last year?
Maybe, yeah.
Or the year before. Either way, Danielson Garcia was perfect for that. Because they did the Dragon Tamer and...
I'd rather watch
really
Swerve's
well
House of the Dragon. That's a show I'm more into, I think, than
You ever watched House of the Dragon after that much Thrones?
I felt done with Game of
yeah,
Thrones.
yeah.
I quite liked it. I'm looking forward to the new season.
Dragons was a bit like the least of Game of Thrones as well.
Yeah.
Like monsters and zombies.
I like
by
the
end.
politics
Yeah,
and
me too.
the...
You could attach it to real life.
Shagging.
Like it's a bit of, like Dragon's a bit. It's a bit of a quick fix, isn't it? Like you know what we say with wrestling with an ODQ. Oh, when he's brought a gun in. Like in an ODQ, it's not as good as a chair. Like Dragons is better than making careful decisions about how to get on the Iron Throne. Hang on, Dragon. Like there's an element of that.
Yeah,
going in an ODQ.
And not to do the whole WWE versus AEW thing because God, that's been done so often. A better tie-in than having the words "dude wipes" written all over ringside when you're having a big match at Mania. But anyway, Mox is doing a backstage promo, putting over Rocky Romero, saying, yeah, it's probably a dumb idea to take this match with a bad arm, but that's what champions do. They show up instead of pissing away at Disneyland. He runs down how much he's doing over the coming weeks, but it's the same as it always has been. He'll be at the top of AEW, top of New Japan, and anywhere else he damn well pleases.
I got a thing on this. This was one of two promos.
Who's gone to Disney World?
There was one of two promos on this show that referenced Disney World.
Yes.
That lets you know that in that locker room, some people are getting together and bitching about somebody going to Disney World, right? So that's a thing. That's a work-based thing that we all live through in all jobs. And I love that it's happening in a wrestling company and getting exposed on television. That has happened, right? There's some WhatsApps, like, not even here, they're at Disney World. In Disney World, FFS, all the angry emojis, whatever. That's funny, number one. Number two, I would take watching Jon Moxley having a day at Disney World over a Rocky Romero match 100 times out of 100. I would have given anything to see Moxley at the Magic Kingdom. Trying to make sense of it all. Chomping down on a turkey leg. Like, taking like his kid on one of the roller coasters and, like, ultimately submitting to how fun it is, even though he doesn't really want to. He's still got his bum bag and his gear on, like, when he was at that wedding that time.
Yeah.
Like, I'd have watched that. And instead he was building a Rocky Romero match. So we get what we get sometimes. It's a very, like... again, this is my Jon Moxley problem in general. Like, he takes great pride in being the guy that goes to work and has these matches and, like, martyrs himself for a little bit, but I just don't buy that as much as I bought it in 2020. It's the same take I keep regurgitating, but it's like, I get more, like, aggravated by it, whereas in 2020 I was hanging on every word of that energy.
The matches aren't what they were in 2022 either.
No.
They really aren't. And, like... When Jon Moxley can't sell you on something, that thing should not be sold. Like, that thing should not... If he can't sell you on something, probably shouldn't sell it, because Moxley's the most authentic, believable, credible guy. That's his whole deal. That's both his persona and the appeal, because it's quite real. When he said, what was it, something to the effect of Rocky Romero, well-travelled... You know, he's been great in CMLL and successful in CMLL or whatever, so he can half buy it. He says he's the kind of guy who can beat anyone on any day. Well, he hasn't beat anyone yet, I don't think. Maybe on Rampage.
Well, It's funny you say that. We got a little game to come a little bit later.
Snap.
Speaking of Disneyland, have you done the Disneyland thing with kids and stuff? It strikes me as something you probably have to remortgage your house.
Yeah, desperate to, but obnoxiously expensive.
Yeah.
Like, desperate to.
I've got 2 anecdotes from went to Disneyland Paris.
Ooh la
When I was in year 7 on a trip, right? Okay. I went Space Mountain twice. Time number 1, lost my wallet. Time number 2, lost my disposable camera. I found the wallet. And another same time, went up to like a kiosk to get a beverage. Year 7, absolute perfect français. Je voudrais un Coca-Cola, s'il vous plaît. And like, what I thought I was in with this like French teenage girl.
Oh.
And I think she was just patronizing me by going, "Oh, he tried." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm French. I can do it.
French.
I can speak it." What is that, French?
Yeah, I went to Disney World twice, and it's the greatest times of my life in Florida. I would give anything to go, and then you try and price up the cheapest version of it, and it's like, that's 5 digits.
Yeah.
How's that? Like, that's nothing else I'm doing for the rest of my life. Wait.
Me and Anne-Louise have always talked about, when we have kids, we'll do the thing. And then I think I spoke to Andy about it. And I was like, is how much?
Yeah. And then as well, it's a cliched parent thing, but you cannot top it.
Yeah.
Like, that's every holiday falling a little bit short. And the worst bit, and I've got friends that experience this firsthand because it's just life. There will be one day, say if you go for 2 weeks, it could be a dream holiday. There will be at least one day where they don't behave at like a bare minimum of what you expect and will flatly refuse to understand the level of sacrifice you have made to make this singular day happen. And that's about as bad as it gets. That's bad enough on a Sunday at the cinema. And it's maybe cost you like a $5 or something, but it's much, much worse, I imagine, when you've travelled all that way and the heat is burning down.
I think I'm pretty blasé about it in terms of like, yeah, we'll do that. And then I thought, but that's, if you've got kids waiting in queues, because there's going to be a lot of people have that idea.
Yep.
It's going to be a nightmare. I'll probably just buy some queue jumps. Oh, a secondary mortgage, is it? Okay.
Love that. A lot of people have the idea to take the kids to Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, we were the first one.
Yeah, hot take. I'm talking about that because I'm desperately trying to avoid talking about what came next because it's time for the learning tree. And the learning tree, Chris Jericho. Big Bill introduces us to TV time with Chris Jericho. There's a big tree in the ring and some grass. And Bill says if there's one thing that Jericho has taught him, it's that even though leaves may come down in the fall, they always grow back in the spring, stronger and brighter than ever. And Jericho thanks his big redwood, thanks the fans who he calls his branchers, who've all sat under the learning tree, bangs on about his... See Nicholas's head just drop. Bangs on about his T-shirt being a top seller or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, who wants one? I'm gonna throw it in the crowd." Blah 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 blah. And he's sort of a bit like, "Oh bloody hell, that title defense at Double or Nothing was a bit tough." But he also said, "Many are called, only few answer. Many talk the talk of wanting to sit under the learning tree, but few walk." I can hear his angry breath as well. Few walk the walk. Please welcome someone who did walk the walk on Sunday, and it's the bounty hunter Brian Keith. And out he comes, and Jericho says, "What did you?" What made you want to get sucked into the Jericho vortex and become a disciple of the learning tree? And a fired up Keith talks about the lack of respect for Jericho and AEW. He couldn't believe Moore didn't jump at the opportunity. The crowd are telling him to shut up, and he says they're all lucky to breathe the same air as Jericho. And Jericho tries to calm him down and says, "Guy, come on, Brian, this isn't a yelling moment. This is a...
Oh! Teachable moment!
Don't bring Vic Joseph into this.
I was going to say, how
sully Vic Joseph.
How dare Chris Jericho stand where he stood?
The lesson learned today is if you want something, you go and grab it. Jericho calls Keith a bad man, and Bill says, "Bad man? More like bad apple." All right, that was pretty good. And Jericho says he can stay under the learning tree for as long as he wants.
Under the what?
Under the learning tree for as long as he wants. Then Hook comes down. There's loads of security. Chucks them all over the place. But before he gets into the ring, Samoa Joe's music plays and he appears, whispers something to Hook, and they leave together with Hook pointing at Jericho before he departs.
Yeah, this was absolute total death. Total death. I can't really say much more than I kind of wanted to never watch the promotion again. As Chris Jericho was talking, I felt very sorry for Brian Keith. Chris Jericho's got one idea, and he's done it now for the third time. And that idea is, what if I get a bunch of guys and they can figuratively lick my arsehole? That's what it is, and that's what this is. Again, there will be yet more takes by, his pals and other people about the effectiveness of the heat. Oh, you meant to hate him, and he's leaning in, and now it's the gimmick and all the rest of it. Here's the thing. If, for whatever reason, late 2019, the 4th, 5th, 6th episode of AEW Dynamite, for whatever reason, he never gets injured, he got, an illness bug or, a flight delay, whatever, and he was forced to miss one of those Dynamites, even one of those Dynamites when the MJF feud was really hot, or when the Kingston stuff was going on or whatever. Mainly that lead up to Full Gear 2019, and Jericho misses a Dynamite. You'd kind of be a bit devastated. That really entertaining guy, the champion, who's more over than perhaps he's ever been. Jericho can't make Dynamite. You'd be gutted, right? And that's the difference. If Learning Tree, Chris Jericho's missed his flight or whatever. Thank for that. And that's the difference. Yeah. You can talk about heat. You can, massage the meaning of what it means. You can play these sort of semantic games about how over he is or isn't, or if it's successful or whatever. If he misses a Dynamite, everyone's jumping for joy. Oh, you're meant to jump for joy if he's not there. No, you're meant to want to watch him and detachedly really enjoy the heel act. It's 2024. And we're all in our 30s, mainly, this core demographic. We don't really hate anyone or truly love anyone. We just want to be entertained by them, and this is death.
You compare this reaction to Jack Perry's reaction later on, for example. They're both heels. They're both people you meant to despise.
Just the semantics that's going on with Jericho. It's pathetic. Everyone knows what's going on.
Compared it on the preview yesterday to Constable Corbin. You see. Booing him because he's the personification of everything that's wrong with WWE, and you're meant to.
I will say that if you look at the quarter hours, they're an argument in Jericho's favor, right? The online discourse is one thing. The vibe that we attempt to sort of articulate or whatever is a separate thing. But relatively good quarter hours that aren't so good that he's calling himself the demigod these days. I mean, the long and short of it is that they do matter, and this must on some level be working to some people. But if you get rid of Jericho for a while, you'll allow other things and the atmosphere and the PR surrounding the show to potentially elevate other more deserving wrestlers and acts who don't get anywhere near the TV time that Jericho does, and who knows what would happen.
He absolutely loves that cadence and that speech pattern that he's developed as part of this character. He loves it. And it reminded me of how much he was trying to be what he believed the best Chris Jericho was in 1999. And he was politically strangled by Triple H and DX and those that saw him as an obvious threat, who were negging his delivery style. Even Jericho now looks back on the one he did against The Rock. I love it. I think it holds up, but he hates it because he thinks he brought too much of that WCW Paragon of Virtue heel over, and it needed to feel bigger when you're face to face with The Rock, and Triple H was able to weaponize it straight away when he's not ready. Lower him down the card. But the reason he was doing that when he first arrived was because he had all this enthusiasm behind what he thought was working and what he thought was right. Seeing him have that identical enthusiasm for this character just makes it all the bleaker. He'll take any opportunity to deliver one extra line or throw in one extra little aside in that voice. This is amazing. I'm getting even more time to do this. Chris Jericho's brand of intentionally bad is still bad.
Yes.
It's, it's wrestling hangs lampshades on stuff all the time. But most people, especially most people in that demographic that Sid speaks of with AEW, it's kids can be. And even then kids, I don't like the idea that kids can just be blanket manipulated into thinking there's a bad guy, there's a good guy. You'd still have to tell sophisticated stories if you can. But kids maybe can be manipulated into just thinking, right, boo him, he's the baddie, cheer him, he's the goodie, whatever. That doesn't even make up AEW's core fan base.
No, they don't aim for them.
They're the least the fans least susceptible to this amount of patronising sort of content, and that's what Chris Jericho is now dining out. And it's like the Big Bill thing, the Apple point, right? Big Bill has that like force of nature ability with his patter that got him to the point where he became this like cult favourite this time last year. So he's going to drop that in every now and then, and you are going to be reminded, oh yeah, Big Bill does that. That's nothing to do with Chris Jericho, and it never was. Like, and that makes it worse because then the gimmick doesn't work. Hook comes out later on, and then now doing a bit where Samoa Joe's this like wise figure who's kind of saying you were stupid to get involved with these people. That's the kayfabe. The shoot is that Hook was just another victim of the very real Jericho vortex that they're having fun with. Like, he's a real victim of it. And it's just, I find it so bleak.
It's just very, very bleak. A horrible viewing experience. You know what else I hate before we very quickly move on is Jericho, like, ironically cutting him down, Big Bill, by calling him the Redwood. Like, he's just this big lunk.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, again, the heat. Oh, he's this big Redwood, you know, literally not animated. Not particularly skilled, not particularly dynamic or anything. This big guy who helps me out. And maybe the heat is, well, more than a tree, Jericho. You know.
I'm a man.
I'm a man or whatever. It's like they treat Big Bill in these segments like he's Mason Ryan.
Yeah.
Or Jackson Andrews with Tyson Kidd.
Or Jake Hager. No, he's left.
Big lump who's there for, I need my latest heavy. Oh, Hager, right, okay, it hasn't worked. It's not going to work again. Got you paid for 5 years, whatever it was. I'll get another new heavy. Like, Big Bill's more than that.
I also don't like the fact that it's sort of even a really crap watered down version of what the Elite are a little bit doing. Like, the you deserve it chance later is
that's
like,
the disingenuous,
yeah.
I think I'm playing the babyface. That's what it is.
Anyway, let's move on because there's a video package for Stephanie Vaca, the reigning CMLL Women's Champion, New Japan Strong Women's Champion, hyping her up. Excalibur is with Forbidden Door on the horizon, and well, more on her in a little while. Then it was time for Jon Moxley versus Rocky Romero, IWGP World Title Eliminator. But before we get through this,
It's time to play the game! Time to play the game! Ha 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 ha!
When was Rocky Romero's last singles AEW win? He's had a few wins with the smelliest tag team, Roppongi Vice, of course, back in the day. But he's had a lot of singles matches recently. When was his last singles win in AEW?
Rampage, which is now 0.08 222,000. That's the interviewers we're looking at. And Tony Khan has also alluded that they're going to do 3-hour blocks now.
Yep.
If you want any more.
That was a test, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it was. I don't even, like, the results just wash over me now. I don't even go, I'll have a look at the spoilers or what. There's no point. So maybe, because all that discourse, right, about it's week to week and it's Vince McMahon's blah, 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 blah. If you look at Brian, I don't think that's strictly true. I can understand wrestlers telling tall tales. I'm not saying there's no truth in it whatsoever. It certainly feels that way at times. But also, even though I fundamentally think it's bad storytelling, they've tried. Brian Keith gets a win on Rampage. Brian Keith gets into that three-way, doesn't win. Jericho gets in his ear, screws them over. Like, there's obviously a week-to-week progression.
It only takes like 6 disillusioned wrestlers to say the same thing to Alvarez for it to feel like a complete narrative.
Yes,
that doesn't
indeed.
mean there isn't 16 wrestlers getting well serviced.
Indeed.
You say that, but Kyle O'Reilly's got a match on Rampage, and you know if he wins that, that's a hell of a momentum for his title challenge with Will Ospreay.
Indeed. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it happens. Okay? I'm not saying it's good, Wilborn. I'm saying it happens.
I know.
So what I'm saying is Rocky Romero might have defeated, I don't know, JD Drake on Rampage.
Not the right show, but the right person.
JD Drake?
JD Drake.
So not Rampage.
Collision?
No, dear, that's
Did not
wrong.
on Dynamite.
No, dear,
on
that's
Bales?
wrong. No, dear, that's wrong.
Dark Elevation. Are you joking?
So that gives you a clue as to when this might have occurred.
Well, it stopped at least early 2023 because it didn't exist when Collision did, because it was like, right, we've got too much content. So don't do any more.
Around Forbidden Door 2022, he got a little mini run,
Little
didn't
push ski.
I think I would say it's a
I'm going to go with, he just popped up sometime, February 2023.
No, dear, that's wrong.
what are we now? Some May 2022.
No, dear, that's wrong.
The 13th of May, 2021. 3 years ago.
Oh boy. So the first Forbidden Door was 2022, wasn't it?
Yes,
So
there was
it's
some
just
smelly wins with Roppongi Vice around that time, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
Well, he's the vice president of 2 companies.
Yeah.
Right, like he's going to get matches.
More now.
Yeah. He's got like...
It's a shame. Like, I will say that Rocky Romero, obviously probably building on the existing relationship between New Japan and CMLL,
Yeah.
that has existed for years. Maybe he's leveraged that in the game. He's on merit earned and really got over in CMLL. He really has. So we're not just saying that he's basically Luther. Far from it.
No.
But realistically, should he be on AEW, like the flagship programming, on merit? I don't think so, personally, but here we are. Then again, everyone gets on AEW TV now. Don't they?
Yeah. Like... The merit
Everyone sporadically gets a match.
we'll go into it later.
It's not like
on.
a huge, massive thing that Rocky Romero is getting a match against Jon Moxley.
I love I think everybody does, right? Loves the Casino Gauntlet. But the little thing hiding in the background of all of that is like, well, who gets in and who doesn't? It's like a world title shot on the line here. Like, there must be a queue of guys backstage and like regular AEW main eventers that are there or thereabouts. And it's like, or Leo Rush. And like, it's great that like sort of a Leo Rush can just turn up, but it's anyone can have a go, isn't it? AEW like that.
I would argue that there was some big hitters or some people with the potential to be big hitters in that.
It was nicely Forbidden
main
Door
event.
flavored, this one in particular.
I thought it was absolutely great, and I'll have no bad words. I'm getting really attached to this Casino Gauntlet. We'll get there.
So Romero jumps Mox right at the bell. It's a tope. He goes after the bad arm. Romero in the ring tries a suplex, but Moxley reverses. Hits a suplex slam, once as a superplex, but Romero again targets the arm, hits a double stomp off the top to take us to a break. When we come back, Moxley bites free in the corner, hits a one-armed superplex. Romero comes back with a tornado DDT into a cross arm breaker, but Moxley spins out into a bulldog choke. Romero gets free, snaps the bad arm back. It's a rolling armbar out of the corner, but Moxley gets to his feet, stomps free, and then gets hit with a discus lariat from Moxley, who hits the Death Rider for the 1-2-3.
Yeah, this wasn't actively bad, not at all. It was just devoid of drama, tension, like spark. This is weird, right? Jon Moxley does really a quite very good job of doing everything, selling an injury in the right order. He modifies his arsenal to account for the injury, never lets you forget that it A, exists, and B, is really debilitating to him. Maybe it's like a bit of whiplash because you've seen him brawl and do sort of perfect brawl, strong style, like do his own death jitsu style, which is what he calls it, a hybrid of grapple, strong style, brawling, and all the rest of it. To watch him do kind of methodically paced limb work matches, I don't know whether it's just, oh, that's new, and I need to get attuned to it, or if it's just a bit dull, particularly coming from him. All I know for sure is that this match just unfolded in front of my glazed eyes, and I couldn't really care less about it, even though it was strictly well wrestled.
Yeah, Jon Moxley in a way is a guy that reminds me that I should be a little bit kinder to when I'm like criticizing booking of pro wrestling, because he's a guy, if you're playing like EWR or Promotion Wars way back when, as an on-paper wrestler or as an on-paper booking decision, a Jon Moxley match is an easy one. You know, within that game, it's going to give you like a 4-star rating, or you're going to get a certain like approval rating or whatever the sort of scoring system is. It still applies in real life to an extent. That's, you know, New Japan have put their world title on him, knowing that he's not even going to be there all the time. And yet, it can be done without necessarily thinking of the individual viewer experience. There will be still some people that enjoy Jon. There's some people like this Chris Jericho thinks there's going to be plenty more that like this Jon Moxley thing. But weekly wrestling is hard to book because of things like this, because a Jon Moxley match sometimes just does not cut it. That alone does not cut it. The lack of any drama, like they were predictable is sometimes good, and it wasn't here. The lack of, at this point, the lack of a Jon Moxley contenders match, even really allowing you to have the conversation of like, somebody might, contenders match exists for that 1 in every 10, maybe 1 in every 15 to actually go the way that you didn't think it was going to, and then as a result they get a title shot.
Takeshita, yeah.
It never happens in a Moxley one, does it?
Yeah.
It happens in plenty of other ones, but it never happens in a Moxley one. And that's, I have no doubt, down to him wanting to, sort of protect himself and still reading wrestling and thinking, I know my worth. I'll be still very selective in how and when I do my jobs, that sort of thing. But it's safety net auto promoting by like there was. You could have picked we could have played the game, 2 singles wrestlers, time to play the game, and landed on a slightly more dynamic or interesting pairing than these two with a result that wouldn't have been as easy to predict.
I miss Jon Moxley in programs. It feels like the interim title stuff in 2022, he somehow contrived to make that kind of work because he was on such like bravura form. Between that and then you've had the short-lived international title run, and now you've got this IWGP world title run. These matches feel nothing like IWGP title matches that I've come to love, and years ago, they feel nothing like title matches. There's now a 6th men's singles title: World, TNT, Continental, International, FTW, IWGP World, that are currently just on AEW program and have been for the last month or so. They're completely meaningless. The thing is about Jon Moxley is that he's got a rare eye for an angle. Very few wrestlers do. He does. A killer promo. Like his programs with Kenny Omega. Yes, a lot of people didn't really rate the actual matches, but in terms of the storytelling that led to them, they were always really quite fantastic. Like remember the angle when Kenny Omega behind the silhouette was doing his big, daft, like deliberately ostentatious entrance.
One of the women with the brooms.
In the silhouette of Moxley just cranked his neck behind him and then beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, that was class.
I miss that Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley.
Was his last Fued? Proper straight end-to-end Fued with Hangman Page, where it wrapped at Revolution 2023.
Potentially.
Because he was BCC
He's had a few Fued with FTR. But it's always these weird...
Just to get to like a big angry match and then done sort of. Like Orange Cassidy was a good example. Like, really great big angry match about like, I'm better than you. I don't think you are anymore. Let's see. But it's not like a bit of a saga, like a bunch of different angles.
Chapters.
Yeah.
There's no chapters.
Page was the last one, wasn't it?
He's sort of like a perennial TNT champion.
Yeah.
And he has been for what feels like 2 years at this point.
Because he lost a Page, and there was that sense of this is character development, because he wouldn't have wanted to...
Then that's when he turned heel, but then he turned face, then he turned tweener, and then he turned face, and then heel. It's been 2 years of Moxley being hard and not being, as quite frankly, as good as he was in 2022, so...
It's not interesting.
No,
that character
really
is only interesting in small doses, isn't it?
But that's the problem. When you get a character who kind of feels like he has to win all the time, you can only win so many.
Renee Paquette's in the back. She goes up to Samoa Joe and Hook, who say that they learned their first lesson tonight. They don't exist on others' time. Truly dangerous men are on their own time. And then it's time for the Don Callis family to gain a new member. Don Callis comes down to the ring, gets booed out of it, basically, and announces Orange Cassidy. Says when he sees Orange, he sees himself. This is the moment everyone's waited for. He called Cassidy a star in the industry, and he presents him with a contract to join the Don Callis family, saying, don't worry, I filled it out for you already. Cassidy takes it and just rips it in half right in front of his eyes. Callis picks up the piece of the contract, and Cassidy simply just gets on the mic and says, no. Goes to leave, Callis spins him around and says, no one says no to me. Stokely and Statlander walk out from the back. Stokely says, there's nothing about you I like, Orange Cassidy, just like Willow Nightingale. And Statlander says, on behalf of my best friends, we accept the offer to join the family. And there's Trent Beretta. He appears behind Cassidy, attacks him, lays him out. Statlander and Hathaway leave at this point. Beretta busts Cassidy open and screams that he hates him. And he does the arms open hug thing with Callis, and complete with the camera work and what have you. And Don Callis raises his hand, hugs him again. Orange Cassidy's just laid out there. Callis puts a few boots in and hurts his own foot in the process. But yes, Trent Beretta joins the Don Callis family.
Yeah, I think I've officially lost interest in this. Double or Nothing was one match too far, at least in this program. Therefore, I'm not really anticipating the big stepped up blow-off, which you'd expect Cassidy to win. So why is Don Callis bothering with Trent if he's a bit of a loser? I'll tell you one thing as well. This is very, very wrestling logic in a way that I just thought I've seen this 1 million times in my life. So Orange Cassidy, all along, he's wise to Callis. He's strung him along, but he's never going to align with him. He's too smart for that. And he gets his ass kicked in a sneak attack. Who's clever? I think they're all thick. I don't ultimately want the match as much as I thought I wanted it a couple of months ago. I think you might have botched this.
Yeah, I gave AEW the benefit of the doubt.
You've been enjoying this the whole time.
Yeah. And I get up to the preview yesterday, I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I was like, you know what? I thought it was going to be Trent, and it was going to be the obvious twist. But then as this story went along, you can't make Orange Cassidy that stupid. So that was me justifying why they just had that match at Double or Nothing. And I thought maybe Trent was going to like do something for New Japan, and maybe he was going to be on that side for Forbidden Door, something like that. You know, I'm leaving, I think he said. So I was thinking, well, that's good, because I still think Orange Cassidy is going to reject it. And by the way, Sidge, on the podcast yesterday, rather than tearing up the contract, I pitched doing a very, very slow thumbs down. Wouldn't that have been better?
Yes.
But like, then he gets attacked by somebody you wouldn't expect. And it turns out Callis was scouting somebody in the background, but it wasn't Trent, it was X. And that's okay, because Orange Cassidy couldn't have, we would never see it coming. And Orange Cassidy's supposed to be cleverer than us, more sophisticated. So that's not going to make him stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, it's that same Jericho logic leap of, ignore the painting. It's like, so what, you went to the trouble of getting the contract knowing that Orange Cassidy, like all that sort of stuff's pretty stupid, but like fine if you don't make the babyface an idiot. This made the babyface the idiot. And Don Callis, the invisible hand, the master manipulator, has signed a guy that has like lost like 28 matches in a row. Ooh, like evil genius. Like the one thing I liked is that Chris Statlander had a good night.
Yes.
And she has been she's been a feature in all of this as well the entire time. So that wasn't just, we'll drop her in for the extra heat.
Yes,
She's always featured. So this was clearly the plan, no matter how dumb some of it might have played out. And her getting profiled in two separate things. Two things that a woman's interested in, and one of them is clothes and the other isn't shopping. Like, they're good steps forward for this. They keep getting made. And just bring her out there. That sort of like, that her presence in all of this was effective. But the rest of it wasn't.
Yeah.
Never going to critique a wrestler's blade job either, because I wouldn't know where I'm doing it. But I was like, you need more blood all over your face, really. Just like, you just got a bit of blood in your hair. Fine.
Yeah. And another thing, between Cassidy looked like an idiot a bit here, Moxley did on the Double or Nothing Go Home Collision. They are relying on those really easy ways to sort of facilitate a heat angle, which is beneath what I thought AEW was.
But speaking of the
easy in it,
it was the Austin. We haven't used this one in a while. It was the Steve Austin thing. He would flag that up. Like, well, I'm going to know Trent's going to attack me of all people, so that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see Steve Austin get attacked like that, because he would say before they go out there, "No, I wouldn't fall for that. How am I going to fall for this and actually going to make sense?" It's that sort of Cassidy. I get why he wouldn't fight this particular battle, but I was surprised to see it play out the way it did.
Yeah.
But speaking of the evil Don Callis family, one of their members, Will Ospreay, is going to be defending the international title against Kyle O'Reilly on Collision, which we'll, of course, preview on Friday.
Is it getting taped tonight?
Yes, I think so, actually.
We'll go through the song and dance every time. You know who's going to win and who's going to lose, so it doesn't really matter if you see the spoilers.
But we'll avoid them for your benefit. And then we have Renee Paquette with Daddy Magic and Daniel Garcia. Garcia says this place is full of killers. He's fighting through it all, trudging through this mud, but he's going to take those muddy boots and drag them towards the international championship. He's going to climb up the rankings, take the title, and make those international...
The what?
Take the title.
The rank, what?
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny. And I can feel, and I don't want to be this, I want to be the person who loves it. I genuinely do. This idea that I want to monetize my hatred of AEW. I want to love it.
Yeah.
Truly I do. And I hate going, here's another problem. There's another problem. And there's another problem. And then if I identify that problem, then that leads me to talk on a macro philosophical level about the promotion. I'm getting just as bored of it as you, but where are the rankings?
Yeah.
Isn't it the sign of a promotion that might not be completely laser focused on being the best and on top form if they are doing this sort of playing to the gallery? You like the AEW, just the way you remember it. Where's the rankings gone?
No.
Like, make it easy for me to not criticize it. That's all I'm asking for. Otherwise, it's my job as a critic. I'm kind of going to have to do that. So I don't know he's going to climb up.
But he's going to make those international flights a little bit lighter for Will Ospreay.
Nice little line.
Yeah, that was
still
a good
like
line.
Daniel Garcia.
Yeah, still Goddamn handsome bastard.
It makes me sick to look at him sometimes. Those gifts.
Then we got, sorry, so just going to check my news here.
Go on, feel free.
The one women's match on the show. No ladies' night, of course, for Sige not being here yesterday.
Couldn't think of a song either. And I thought, midway through the program, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
The burden has been lifted from me. Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet. Because I went in, thinking, all right, okay, Mariah May versus Saraya. I mean, we've done it, and this is the worst version of that whole four-way dynamic you can possibly do, but okay, let's go. But on merit, on principle, the idea that I thought I was still getting that, and then a second women's match as well, I was like, well, the burden has been lifted. Nope.
Not yet.
Joked on the news, by the way. Maybe with a 3-hour Dynamite, they could book 2 women's matches. Anyway, Mercedes Moné dominates early on. Blue got sent to the outside with a head scissors and a meteora off the apron from Moné. Gets a 2 when they go back inside. But Blue fires off a kick between the ropes and hits a draping neck breaker to take control as we go to a break. We come back. Moné fights back, hits a sunset flip meteora for 2. Hits the backstabber, but takes too long, and Blue cuts her off in the corner with a cheeky Nando's kick. Moné managed to avoid the powerbomb, gets a Hurricane Rana, but Blue responded with a full Nelson spinning slam for a 2 count. But Moné dodges the TKO. They trade thrust kicks. Blue wants code blue, but Mercedes counters into the Moné Maker for the win. Post-match, Moné celebrating with her title and dancing, and Stephanie Vaquer walks out carrying the New Japan Strong Women's title, and they both hold up their titles, and that's what we're going to get at Forbidden Door.
I know, well into that. This match, I thought there was a really high ceiling on this that they didn't reach. Like, Sky Blue is becoming really infamous or famous or over or whatever in AEW for, quite frankly, going hog wild in her matches, laying it in, taking ridiculous bumps, like that eagerness to impress. And Mercedes Moné is a demonstrable lunatic who bumps like death in that ring. When I saw the reveal at the start of the program, I was like, oh, I can't wait for them to wrestle, because they've got this sort of maniac within that will drive them to a really sick, hard-hitting match that I'm going to wince at and watch through sort of like parted fingers. And I was like, oh, get it tonight. I was really, like, that's the first time an impromptu match has really done something for me. It just felt like there was nothing really botched or outwardly sloppy, but it just felt like it was the slightest wavelength issue. That slight thing where you're just waiting for it to click and it just doesn't quite click into place. Great finish. I really enjoyed the last minute or so. I just thought that this was a bit underwhelming because maybe I projected a higher ceiling onto it than it merited. But God damn it, I've got an expectation. And if nothing else, if I'm going to be generous and look at the bright side for once in my miserable fucking life, that says something, rather a lot, about the admirable way in which Sky Blue's career has progressed and how much graft she's put in, because there's an expectation now from me for her, and this one match just didn't really get it.
What I got from this,
It wasn't bad at all.
It wasn't bad, was it? And I need to walk back a little bit of something we discussed on the Double or Nothing review. I don't want to bin the Moné Maker entirely. I want her to use it as one of her finishes when it makes the most sense, as it did here. It looked great here.
Yeah, it depends on who she's facing, doesn't it? Yeah.
But like, who we've been like mentioning this loads with Gunther lately as like ways to beat people. So just use it when it fits the sequence you're in or as a perfect counter, because if you think about that like back-to-back situation, that's more likely to arrive probably in a counter than anything else.
Yeah.
So if you're hitting your finisher off counter, class.
Yeah.
Like the person, it can't have prepared for it because they're about to hit you with something. So it's still great in that role. And it was nice to see that and be reminded of that, because when she's going through the rigmarole of setting it up, it feels so laboured. So I really like that. And with Sige, I was waiting for a little bit more insanity out of these two, but I'm still getting, like, and I want this to last a long time. I don't want the novelty to run out with her for a while. I'm still getting that feeling of when like Punk rocked up and just had like some like nice 3-star TV matches, but it was cool being like, oh, he's back and he's wrestling them, and there's a whole slate of wrestlers that I've never seen yet, and I think that's going to last for quite a while with Mercedes Moné.
You know, I'm going to make one more, like, just one broad point, and then I'm going to get really fired up about the main event when it comes. It doesn't feel, now that we've got this LED nightmare of a ringside environment, right? That's what it looks like. I still love the Goated new tunnels. We've got this really 2019 ass looking. I'm sorry, but it's true. It just looks a bit ugly. This LED nightmare of a ringside set. If you had this non-WWE looking product like you used to do with that guardrail, when you see someone interloping, it would look far more of that juxtaposition. Which is meant to be one of the cool things about AEW. You can rehab your career here. You can make the choice to just do cool things here or different things here. When the here looks like they're there, it doesn't hit quite as hard. Sorry.
Stokely and Chris Statlander are backstage. Hathaway calls Willow Nightingale pathetic for being 30 years old and thinking Disneyland's a magical place. There you go. They say the Catalyst.
Johnny Gargano coming in, and there's like, what? And there's like, oh god, another person who's going to win loads and be on TV.
And he's watching the show. What the hell did I do?
Hathaway said the catalyst for this was the four-way a few weeks ago. Statlander said she desperately wanted to be TBS champion and Nightingale just didn't listen, but Hathaway did, and he's always going to be the shoulders to cry on. Statlander says she's come back from multiple knee injuries while bitches in the back go home for much less, and they're not just talking about the women either. Statlander said she did something for herself for once and got booed for it. She's only been there as a bodyguard for people who think she'll just clean up their messes. She's no longer the protector. Everyone will need protection from her.
Aye. Do Statlander versus Moné, leading to Statlander versus Willow. Hopefully they can get over the chemistry issues they had at World's End, I believe it was. Statlander versus Moné.
Oh my God.
Yeah, bought this. This was a good promo, and it wasn't just Stokely, was it?
Statlander's had a really good night, yeah.
We get a big video package on MJF, his return at Double or Nothing, and his history within AEW. And then here comes the Elite, which was perfect in terms of getting that sort of reaction of just like, But obviously, and then it was one of those ones where I was disappointed MJF wasn't on this show, but the lack of mention of him in the build-up was like, we don't not say MJF's not going to be on this show. If he's coming, you say MJF's coming back.
Obviously not, so.
Yeah.
The video was really good, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, that was another sign that the Undisputed Kingdom stuff is over with, and they were telling you over and over again with a bunch of records that were, of course, grandiose because it's MJF and he's probably paid this voiceover, but true, that, like, a tippy-top guy. Like, it's when we
They
say,
made
like,
him feel massive.
Yeah, like, it's when wrestlers can make, like, a guy that's been there since day one feel like a new signing when they come back from, like, an injury or a break or whatever. I thought the Young Bucks thing was super effective because I just thought in the building, like,
People started to chant
what are they going to do?
MJF.
Yeah, they're like, there's this little gap, a pregnant pause. People, if you were there, you would assume
Yes.
and you're ready for it. But then it was them, and there was nowhere better for that heat to go than to them. So that was quite nice.
Now, the video package was really good.
Brilliant.
People just automatically assume every video package is good or, like, necessary. This is a really, really well done one. Like, oh, yeah, he was that good. Oh, he did that. He did this. Yeah.
So out come the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada and Jack Perry. They all get their entrances, and Okada tells the fans, "Shut up, bitches." Perry's getting nuclear heat at this point, saying the Elite run this. Kenny Omega and Tony Khan picked their dream team, but I took a piece of the dragon when I pinned Bryan Danielson. Nicholas Jackson puts over their fancy new shoes and says Okada and Perry's performance was so unbelievable at the pay-per-view, they've come bearing gifts. And they show on the big screen a Lamborghini pulling up to the arena. There's Rainmaker on the license plate. Okada mock cries, saying things like, "Is this a dream?" and "I love you guys," and then just gets a deadpan face immediately. And also the Young Bucks.
Another car. Got loads of them.
We get "You Deserve It" chants led by the Young Bucks, of course. Matthew says he does have to take some partial blame, unfortunately, for what happened to Adam Copeland.
This is immaculate.
Yeah.
It's a 7-star line in a promo.
Because he told him just before he went out for his match, "Hey, break a leg."
They're the best. They're the best.
Wish him a speedy recovery. But as EVPs, they know they're going to make tough choices. And therefore, unfortunately, Adam Copeland is stripped of the TNT title. But thankfully, since they need a champion, they know a guy, someone who's just had the biggest win of his career at Double or Nothing, scapegoat Jack Perry. But before...
So you nearly f***ed it up.
Yeah.
Skateboard Jack Perry.
Who's that?
But before they can crown him, I suppose...
Why? Jack Perry's so cool.
He could actually make that gimmick, the Cora Jade gimmick, work. I'm a skateboard guy. Ride it then. I can't just carry it to the ring.
Yeah.
Before they can officially crown him, though, we hear, "Wait just a minute."
Before that, though, Perry going to the ropes. in celebration was goated.
Yes. And from backstage, here comes Christopher Daniels. He says he's been named the interim vice president by Tony Khan, which means the decisions he makes come straight from the top. Yeah, I thought of you immediately here, Sige.
Wouldn't it be spokesman? Carry on. Sorry, I'm interjected.
He says, we're not just giving this TNT title away. You're going to have to earn it. There'll be qualifying matches over the coming weeks. No seconds, no managers, no outside interference. And the title's going to be fought for at Forbidden Door in a ladder match. The first match is going to happen on, well, he said Friday Night Dynamite, and I panicked. I thought, they moving the show again? But I assume he means Rampage, because he said Los Angeles, of course. The Elite are upset.
That's not why he's a spokesman.
And they go to, well, I think they said they were going to go to tell him how happy they are to have him back, i.e. kick the crap out of him. But the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass come down to make the save, and there's a face-off to close this segment.
I told you there was a reason to beat the Grizzled Young Veterans, didn't I? Mm-hmm. Knew it. Anyway. This Christopher Daniels stuff I need to talk about before I just happily put over how much I enjoy the Elite, right? So the Christopher Daniels, they've at least tied up like a really fake story beat. Christopher Daniels says, I'm an interim executive vice president.
That's right, yeah.
So this is basically AEW's way of telling you, don't worry, guys, Tony Khan will make the odd cameo. Like, he'll get his ass kicked and then he'll get written off in the stupidest way possible. You'll see him backstage, but he's not going to come out and promo with the Elite. Christopher Danielson's going to do his job for him or whatever. And that's just a bit crap.
It's an EVP power struggle.
Yeah, but
top of AEW.
Yeah, but like there's no power struggle anymore because Tony Khan's medically cleared to travel.
Yeah.
We talked about this. I want to mention it now before I forget. We talked about this on the preview because I said to Hamfler,
Tony Khan's in charge.
Like what happens now? The Elite have won Anarchy in the Arena. I know there was no stipulations.
There's no that thing. There was no stakes or stip.
They're going to stip up blood and guts. They're going to do it all again.
Just get it over with.
Different team and stip it up that way.
And
like
Team AEW wins.
Yeah, absolute power. I think.
I said, if you've got this gauntlet and you're the EVPs and you're the Elite and you're running the place, wouldn't you just put a load of heels who you want to destroy Swerve Strickland in it and be like, well, they'll beat each other up, but one of them will win. And Swerve's been a cheeky bastard to us recently.
They've always had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They've never cared about collision.
Yeah.
Even when Tony Khan had the neck brace on, the cards just looked like ones that Tony Khan would book.
Tony Schiavone said it on this broadcast. I've just had a note through from Tony Khan. It was earlier on Dynamite.
From Mercedes Moné.
About Mercedes Moné. Like, Tony Khan just let me know that...
Is that what just before Taz kicked off on Picture in Picture?
Yeah.
I want to talk about that actually very quickly before I talk about the Elite, right? During Picture in Picture, and this is a very small, minor criticism that is only shared by European and international viewers who watch on Triller, Fight TV, whatever, right? The idea is that during the adverts, and it's pretty funny, Tony Schiavone and Taz sort of kick loose a little bit. We're not on cable. It's just those English people who want to invest in the matches and those, Lithuanians or whatever and all the rest of it.
Europe and the Mr. Bean looking ass.
Indeed. So they basically have a laugh for 3 minutes while the heat sequence is going on. And it's fine. You'd rather a little bit of levity during some action you don't care about. That was what it used to. It's taken way too far now. So what happens is they have these really snarky and jokey conversations with each other on the Triller broadcast during the TBS picture-in-picture or just outright commercial breaks, or increasingly they have really, really awkward, tense arguments at commentary. I'm trying to watch. Maybe it's the bit I'm not meant to see, but here's the kicker. There's still wrestlers in there, no matter if they're slowing it down, still trying to maintain the illusion that they're in a professional wrestling match and what they're doing is hurting and that there's a baby face getting worked over. Someone like Excalibur, who's meant to be sort of the pearl-clutching moral voice, it's meant to be, he's in trouble there or whatever. Maybe I should just fast forward and it's a me problem, but they're just, this commentary team on these international broadcasts are taking the piss.
Are you just saying to them, just call the match, dude? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just saying, just call the match. I am calling the freaking match. Well, you're not. You're not, and that's a problem for me. All that aside, yes. I wish it wasn't all linked to this heel authority figure stuff, which you can just poke holes in. Every time I see the Elite on television, I have so much fun. I think the act is a theoretical total joy if you ignore why it exists. It's like Matthew Jackson is in the comedy form of his life. He's hilarious.
It's such a strange patter thing with them as heels versus baby faces.
Yeah.
It goes through the floor as faces. And as heels, it's the best
they're
comedy in wrestling, isn't it?
They're amazing. Okada just feels like he's having the time of his life, and it radiates, and I bask in that. Jack Perry feels like he could be someone, which you thought when he's coming out to that classical music and he's banging the hardest bitch in the place. You just thought, well, that's dead, and so are you.
We talked about this on the news, me and Phil, about like, because someone asked us, I think it was Eric Vasquez perhaps, asked us a question regarding like MJF being a sort of stone cold figure going up against this elite authority figure sort of thing.
And Tony Khan, because he's in charge.
Because he's mistraded. He's got an AEW tattoo. But like, I was like, imagine turning around after the aftermath of Double or Nothing last year and going, you know, I'd quite like to see what MJF and Jack Perry are like when they go up against each other now. Like now, he's looking at this version of Jack Perry going, who the hell's this?
Yeah. No, like, I have so much fun between these ridiculous matches that they're working. Like Matthew Jackson being a complete riot in promos. Okada, every second they're on screen, I pop at something. It's such a good act. I just hate what it's tethered to.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, exactly. You're having fun with it, but it's like, so how does it work booking the match? Is it first come, first served?
I've stopped worrying about it.
Yeah, like the authority thing, like Christopher Daniels as the assistant to the regional manager just looked lame. And lining up with the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass to do this match is annoying because even the elite, the ones who they're in a power struggle, right? Struggling for power and getting it for the most part, winning them big matches, all that sort of stuff. Even they are trapped in the other vortex of AEW, which is, well, if you want to see them win this match, they've got to win this match first. Like this, that 4-on-4 is going to happen, but it's not the 4-on-4, is it? There's a bigger 4 proper baby faces that are going to save the day in Blood and Guts or whatever, you know, the big match down the line. So they're having to do their run-up matches rather than just farting around in the ring doing this every week and waiting for proper top baby faces to do something about it.
What's the, is it the Scott Hall line? Like, nice Rainmaker, can't wait to kick out at 3.1 from Daddy Ass.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Don't speak of it. It will
really go well, but he could go out there and be like, "You ain't no Tanahashi," and he's got experience of that. Some New Japan law with their Daddy Ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, Swerve's backstage with Prince Nana, and Stevie Wonder's written on the wall, and they says we should call him Stevie Wonder. No one can see you in the ring. He took down another legend at Double or Nothing, and he returned the favour to Killswitch earlier on in the night. Swerve's looking forward to some competitors, or looking at the competitors in the upcoming main event. Some surprises, and who's going to be next to step foot in whose house? Swerve's house. And we get a graphic that says, MJF is going to be back next week, and Roosh applauds MJF's return to AEW, but he says, I'm the star here, not you.
Oh, MJF versus Roosh.
Oh my God.
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Gonna get his ass kicked.
He's gonna like,
and then kick some ass.
Yeah, it's sort of perfect for this MJF. I think he's going to turn heel again pretty soon, but again, it's a return. It's got to be the edgier babyface first, and Roosh is like perfect matchmaking for that.
Babyface versus Roosh for me is a dream match.
It is a shame for Roosh in that AEW where it's like the recently returned Roosh is about to get his ass kicked by the more recently returned bigger star.
Yeah.
But that's AEW. The match itself is.
He's probably my second favorite AEW wrestler that has like horn adjacent lore, and the number one, of course, Sidge, would be
the Beast Mortos.
Is it Fraser Cranium?
Fraser Cranium, the legend.
His son drew a picture because his dad's introduced him to
the Beast Mortos.
Right, main event time.
It should have featured the Beast Mortos.
It should. Oh, can you? Well, no, it wouldn't, because then I'd be like, well, Ospreay shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
Maybe he never made it out. I want one day the video of the wrestlers that.
Yes.
Didn't make it out. The Gauntlet wrapped early. Maybe the Beast Mortos was just.
Beast Mortos is number 21.
Yeah.
So it's the Casino Gauntlet for who is the number one contender for Swerve's title. I'm going to go on a limb here, Hamflet, and say I think they booked this better than we did.
Yes.
Do you want to know who we had as the what is it? Who getting pinned and who won it with the game we played?
We played a game where we figured it was going to be a mix of AEW and New Japan. I did forget about the same element,
Yeah.
but like, so
Andy said that when we came out of the studio, and I was like, yeah, I probably should mention
probably
that.
should have mentioned that.
Well,
Been heavily reported.
Got 2 rosters up, so we could have one from each, and then it would be that dramatic finale where it's like, he's going to get the AEW World Title shot. From the AEW roster, we landed on Tall Paul. But it works out all right, because the New Japan one, finally, at long last, making the jump from the junior heavyweights, Hiromu Takahashi. And I was like, I kind of want to watch, actually. Yeah. They came out the last 2, and Takahashi got the win. I'm like, yeah, all right, actually, why not? So, but this was better.
Yes.
This was better.
First 2 entrants were Switchblade Jay Watt and Pac. And obviously, the history, they go at it straight away. Pac tries to get revenge for what happened at Double or Nothing. It's a spinning dive outside and a big drop kick when they go back inside. Mystico was number 3. Arm drags to both men, goes up top and hits a huge crossbody to the floor to take us to a break. When we come back, entrant number 4, Brav, is Will Ospreay. Immediately comes in and hits Pip Pip Cheerio on Mystico. A big face-off with Jay White, of course. Crowd are obviously so hyped for Will Ospreay. He hits the corkscrew kick. Pac slides in and nearly steals it with a roll-up. There's a WCPW face-off between Pac and Ospreay. Mystico flies in off the top. It's
Had a match in Rev Pro, didn't they?
La Mystica on Ospreay.
Ospreay sold it like
Yeah.
it's the best.
Yes.
I can't remember who was the next entrant. I believe he was previously associated with Moxley, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Sige, who was the next? Mr. Umino? What was his name again? Shooter! And that's the chance he got. And him and Ospreay have a ridiculous sequence together. Slingshot DDTs all over the place. 2 counts. Claudio comes in, and Jay White bails, throwing anyone in Claudio's way, basically. But he eventually catches him in the giant swing. And as we go to a break, everyone gets giant swings, including almost referee Bryce Remsburg. Entrant number 7 was Leo Rush.
Can I just say before I forget, because I'm going to forget.
Yeah.
I love it when you see a wrestler do something amazing during a picture-in-picture where they know that as soon as the red light turns back on, the crowd's going absolutely crazy. That was low-key so clever on Claudio's part of that.
I love bloody hell. So I was just so in the zone of just grabbing anything and swinging it that moves that Brian's no.
We saw evidence of that. MGF came out and when we were in Vegas to do a promo and he just riled everyone up. And then by the time, all right, the camera's back on, you just had this backdrop of people going crazy for him.
So Leo Rush was entrant number 7. He's flying all over the place, avoiding Claudio. Gets rid of him, and Rush and Umino have a trade-off, misdirects and what have you, and then they just both get laid out by Castagnoli. Orange Cassidy's out at number 8 with a taped-up head. He blocks a suplex into a Stundog Millionaire and a spinning DDT on Claudio, but he stumbles due to the attack earlier on. Ospreay winds up a hidden blade and has a bit of a hesitation. Maybe there's a face-off between the 2 of them. Jay White flies in, sleeper suplex, Uranagi. Cassidy fights off the Blade Runner, though. Hechicero is number 9. He runs wild. There's a big wheelbarrow on Ospreay. Rolls up Cassidy for 2. Mystico cuts him off with a top rope Hurricane Rana. Then just a parade of dives. Shota Umino hits a pump knee on Cassidy, who comes back with an orange punch. Pac tries the Black Arrow on White, but a bit like Double or Nothing. Juice Robinson runs out and crotches him before legging it. So White wants the Blade Runner on Orange Cassidy, but Ospreay flies in, hidden blade. Stormbreaker gets countered by Cassidy into a snap Hurricane Rana for 2, but Ospreay hits the Oscutter. 1, 2, 3. He is the number 1 contender for Swerve's title at Forbidden Door. And to close out the show, Swerve walks out and has a face-off with Ospreay. There is your main event for Forbidden Door, one would assume.
Couldn't have loved this more on every single level, right? What if you're right and they're wrong? Think about that. What if you're right and they're wrong? What if this widely held opinion just happens to be kind of incorrect and you're the only person who knows? I've said for the last several years that the WWE Royal Rumble match is inherently flawed. It needs to be modernized, and it hasn't been. And I think the fact that the match has kind of aged in terms of the way it's approached, action-wise in WWE, kind of obscured over the years by how poorly it was booked and who was selected to win it. And I've just said, you know what? I don't think the Royal Rumble's that good anymore, guys. And I was a heretic for holding that opinion. This match, validation, vindication, to get the actual meme right. Vindication. This, I'm not suggesting that they change it to pinfall rules. Yeah. I'm not suggesting, quite frankly, that the way WWE operates, its agent and its production would want, nay, be able to achieve this. There has to be something more like this in the Royal Rumble for me.
Random intervals. I'd take that straight away.
I'd rather just the pace and the incredible blistering action.
You know when it's like, oh,
and the fact that it's young, like it's athletic, more dynamic wrestlers in the match. It should look a bit more like this for me.
It's the thing as well, and I know it's not a hard and fast rule of like 90 seconds or whatever. It's always a bit played with.
Those are the adverts inform this as well.
Yeah, but like this, they said at the beginning, it's just going to be random intervals. So if you've done all the spots and you know, right, the next spot involves Hechicero or whoever, well, here's music then. Not, actually, it's only been this amount of time, so we have to, guys, just kill a bit and just kill all this, like you say, this heat that's built, or just excitement or whatever. Yeah.
This was, I think, behind Takeshita Derby, my second favorite TV match of the year.
Wow.
It was so unbelievably great. The amount of and that's the thing, the multi-man, it's like, it's an easy book and crutch, and you don't necessarily want to see it as a big-time pay-per-view main event. TV wrestling, an absolutely perfect formula. The amount of 2.99s was, like, quite frankly, unbelievable. The amount of Will Ospreay dream matches within a match that he established here, I cannot believe how good this guy is. His exchange with Shooter! The real penny dropper, isn't he? Shota Umino is always this guy who's on the cusp of, like, can you be great? And then if you become great, could you one day become one of the best in the world? I find him so fitful. The evidence is just like for and against almost every other match. Goes in there with Will Ospreay. Like, their match last year was one of the best matches I've seen all year. This little sort of revisit of it in this one sequence is like absolutely heart-pounding, pulsating. Duck now, or you're getting your face blown off with my elbow sort of stuff. It was absolutely mesmerizing. That Ospreay versus Pac tease, they did nothing except one pinfall and a 2.999 ad infinitum, as Excalibur says. And I was already like, well, do that. Do that as well, please. The way he bumped for that weird thing that Hechicero does, where it's like, he just went like up to the rafters, flailing about, and then got trapped. His bump full of mystic. Everything Will Ospreay did in this match was absolutely unbelievably precise and never looked like too choreographed, because that's the, quite frankly, genius of what he does. Beyond Will Ospreay's unbelievable individual performance, the fact that he was told to go in there, you have this unbelievable individual performance because we're going to do the book and shock of all shocks. I couldn't believe what they did here.
I was trying to work it out.
That's the thing.
Yeah, in the middle of the match.
It made it so incredibly dramatic and unpredictable, because you're thinking, well, Ospreay's in it, but surely not now. Did he win the last one?
Yeah.
So he won the last one.
He's won 2 in 2 months.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because he's shown himself to be the best.
Yeah. So he's won this, but he's won the last one. I'm thinking, maybe he's just in it for the match quality, because surely they're not going for this.
Or just to set up like a future international championship challenger.
Yes. And then I'm like, and I'm going through the gears and I'm watching this. I'm thinking, I've got no idea who's winning this. Can't be Ospreay now. It can't be Claudio, as awesome as he was.
Yeah.
Pac selling of the swing. What an absolute animal as well. Like, everything was just amazing, relentlessly. Leo Rush was incredible. I'm thinking, well, it's not going to be Claudio. Probably not Orange.
I thought it was going to be Orange Cassidy.
Hechicero's lost to Danielson, and I'm thinking, right, it's not going to be a core AEW guy. Maybe Ospreay, but I don't know. Hechicero, no. I'm thinking maybe Mystico, because they've protected him. He's one of the few CMLL guys who's come in and won, because he's such a huge star there, and he's such a draw, as we saw with that match he had against Rocky Romero. He can shift hundreds, if not like thousands of tickets for an AEW show. Maybe him. And I'm thinking, all right, Shooter then, because he's the one proper like New Japan guy, and it's a New Japan versus AEW match the way I've configured it in my head. Just a series of red herrings, unbelievable, incredible, state-of-the-art action, 2.99s, a false finish spree. I couldn't have loved this more. And I love this because Tony Khan had the boldness to ask the bravest question. What if someone did the Royal Rumble but made it good?
I couldn't work out in this if, man, like AEW really have something with this format, or
If Will Ospreay is just...
do AEW just have Will Ospreay plus a ton of other talents that are only just on the level below?
Or, sorry, one more thing. Amidst all the criticism, right, and a lot of it's earned, and I'm kind of at the forefront of it, amidst all the criticism, does Tony Khan still know how to get, I can make this wrestler look incredible by building an idea around that wrestler and how they can get over?
Yeah. I think there's like, but what I was going to say was, I think it's a little
What
bit
a
of
vehicle
both.
for Ospreay this was.
I really think it is a bit of both. Like, he's won 2 of them. It obviously suits his style, but it helps all of the others that come into the match as well. Like, it's like Sidgwick's articulated there, when you're kind of going through it, it like improves your viewing experience because you're reminded suddenly of the stakes. You're cycling through permutations while getting excited watching wrestling. It's the perfect viewing experience in that respect, because I always bang on about how I care more about anticipation a lot of time in the matches because it lasts longer and it's a feeling that you get to sit with. This was a bit of both. This is like you're sitting with all these feelings while actually watching the wrestling itself. So they really have something here. I've already sort of speculated on how you book. I love the idea of like the intervals just happening. So like somebody else is coming out. One of these days they're going to have like a character that's feeling wronged, like a Drew McIntyre, and he's going to be stood at the top of the tunnel, but then somebody gets the pin in the ring. And it's going, there's like, they're opening the door to so many new creative things with this gimmick, which for years was like whenever AEW would do a Battle Royal, the 2 things would be, like, I remember you would say, so just call it a Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
It is what it
Just
is.
do
or,
it and
or like
call it that.
Or the suits would complicate it or whatever. Not the Titans.
4 pops.
Yeah.
Ruining the pop.
Yeah. Like this thing they couldn't steal and they were trying to create.
We fixed it literally when it first happened. Just to do a roulette wheel. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Doing
Also,
the casino thing, just do a roulette.
just do a rumble, but to avoid accusations of plagiarism, just do pins.
Yeah.
Because pinfall saves are amazing and near falls are amazing.
And I really think roster dependent, they've cracked it here. Swerve and Will Ospreay is amazing. Like, that is an amazing choice to make now. The Forbidden Door is not a battle between AEW, New Japan, and CMLL. It's, this match now?
Yes.
That's forbidden. Like, that's like, it honestly feels like a transgression that we're getting this match when we are. And what a perfect booking it is for right now. Like, instantly, the accusations of Swerve Strickland being a paper champion or a transitional champion holding it for Ospreay will be dropped because he's either going to win or lose. So if he loses the title, then the biggest thing Swerve can do is try and win the Owen and get a tournament shot to get back to Ospreay at Wembley. So you get the match that we all talked about, but nobody would have seen it coming that they flipped the belt for it. Or Ospreay wins, and the best wrestler in the world is the world champion where the best wrestle, and they're just doing it. It once again with Ospreay, and Tony Khan keeps doing this, and I love this, keeps answering that constant criticism of, you never got to the matches.
Yeah.
With X, Y, and Z, with all these wrestlers, you never got to the matches. Well, he's getting all of them with Ospreay, like every single one of them, and great as well. And it just felt like more like the only time I'd felt this recently with AEW was probably MJF coming back. It just felt, why can't it be now? Why? Like I was watching MJF at Double or Nothing, and I was like, why can't he be back in his gear already and in a match? I want MJF in a story straight away. I wish it was Forbidden Door tomorrow because I want this match. This matters. It's the perfect kind of unpredictable. And there will be a winner and there will be a loser, and the consequences will be. Ospreay losing here for the first time when he seemed pretty much indestructible will be massive for his career. Because what does he do? Again, does he then try and win the Owen to get back to Wembley against the guy he just couldn't beat? It's fantastic. Like the way every which way this spins off. It's brilliant matchmaking to do this right now.
It's suddenly switched, hasn't it, Sid, to build on that point from like, okay, Plod, Joe to Swerve. You hold it for a few months and have some fairly
disrupted the pattern.
defenses, and then we'll get to All In, and then we'll put it on Ospreay, and we'll go from there. It's a bit like Priest and McIntyre. You go, well, okay, if that happens, this, and you've also got Punk waiting in the wings, and it's like the same thing. You got MJF, MJF's not going to come back and be like, right, let's get into some mid card feuds. So
sorry, Sid. Yeah, the very thing I was like raving about on Raw has happened here. There's like 4 or 5 guys. And now I don't know where the pieces fall.
Yeah.
Brilliant, yeah.
It just feels like when you saw that Moxley Rocky Romero match graphic drop. No offense to that particular match. There's been several in that genre of graphic of, well, it's so patterned and you know who's going to win and who's going to lose. And then just with one on the back of this incredible TV match, it's like, oh my God, that's completely changed and the pattern's been disrupted. I couldn't have loved the end-to-end presentation of this more. I want to call it a near perfect television match, but I can't think of the flaw for the near. I think it's just perfect.
Great end to the show. Really excited to see what comes next from this. Let us know your thoughts on AEW Dynamite in the comment section below or on X at WhatCulture WWE. Watch, they can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE, as I said. Make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Our Double or Nothing review is available right now. And me and Sidge will be back tomorrow to preview AEW Collision. But for now, this has been the Dynamite Review. My thanks to Hamflett and Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you soon.